Bing bong bing bong. Oh man, I want to go to a rave. Who wants to go to the rave with me? Let's go, Sherry. Let's go to a rave. I think the next rave that we would go to would be in December or September. There might be a rave in September. We're gonna go to a convention in September. Exciting. All right, let's turn this down. Okay, let's see if we can capture this. I might have to use a different capture. There we go. Nice, nice. What is this? No, 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 no. Where is my save file? Is this starting from the beginning? No way. This is not starting from the beginning. Hold on. Let's load. There we go. There we go. I thought I lost where I saved. That would have been upsetting. Okay. Voice acting activated. Actually, I don't know if I could voice these correctly. It's been a hot minute since I've played this game, so I don't know what voices I gave them. Let's get to it. Sounds good to me. I wouldn't mind sitting down a spell neither. Their name's Joseph. People start walking to the outskirts of the town, weaving between the clumps of houses and down the dirt banks. You keep walking on the flat stretch, smooth and compacted from the frequent travels of people. Some townsfolk on their porches wave at you or give a little afternoon as you pass by. Is it just me, or does it feel like everyone here is nicer than most? Well, maybe, but I ain't complaining. He gives an enthusiastic wave to a small kid shyly hanging around outside their house, under the shade. I could get used to folks being nice to me. They not usually? I mean, I don't stray far from the gang a lot of the time. Maybe this is normal. Yeah, I suppose I wouldn't know either. You arrive at the large wooden building you've been heading towards, noting how similar to a chapel it looked. Joseph walks up the small steps and opens the door with a rattle, putting it open for you. Thank you kindly. He follows you into the short, darkened hallway, closing the door behind him with another wooden rattle. The meeting hall is fairly large and simple and bright. The wood walls are varnished and gleaming from the ample sunlight filtering through the arched windows. Rows of benches line the aisle, half facing away and half facing towards you on each side. Sitting on a nearby bench turned away from you is a hunched figure in black. Hearing you come in, the figure jumps to life, rising from the seat. They turn to you both, revealing themselves to an elderly tortoise, holding a small book in one hand. Ah, do my eyes deceive me, or do I see new visitors in our town? He walks with a characteristic slowness of someone his age and nature down the aisle towards you both, but with a sprightly spring to his step. Is that a real word? I've never seen that word. Maybe because I don't read a lot. Sprightly, but with a sprightly spring to his step. I'm just illiterate. That's all it is. He tucks the book under one arm and extends both his hands to shake hands with Joseph. And then you. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to Clemency, and to our meeting hall. I am Jacob. And what might your names be? I'm Joseph, and this here is my associate Marlon. Pleasure to meet you. I assure you, the pleasure's all mine. It has been a good while since we had fresh faces around here. Now, you'll have to excuse me, but I have some business to attend to quickly. Feel free to sit and pray here until I return if you so wish. Before you can ask any more questions, he shuffles between you both and out the door. You and Joseph look at each other quizzically, sitting down on the nearest bench together. What did he say? Sit and pray here? That's what I heard too. Is this a meeting hall for prayers? The meeting house of God? I don't get it. You can't help but smile at his musing as he looks around the room, looking into the rafters of the ceiling, before turning back to you. You lock eyes with him, staring into the honey gold and brown streak rings of his keen gaze. Oh. He smiles at you coyly and looks away, readjusting his seat. You realize you were holding your breath. Oh. You sit up on the bench more too. The hard wood at your back reminds you of church days. All the fuss and protest against your mother about your Sunday best. You don't miss the frills and laces at all. You do miss singing hymns with her. Oh no, how do you say that word? Hymns. Hymns. Hymns? Hymns? She had a beautiful voice. I don't remember the last time I prayed. Don't cross my mind very much. Can't say you're missing anything. All the good it do to you. Not a believer? I don't want to blaspheme, but God's done a whole lot of jack squat to help me all my life. Don't really feel like praying to someone who doesn't care about me or anyone like me for that matter. Which, why I wouldn't have pegged you for a devout man. Joseph laughed a bit, almost mocking the idea. No, I don't think anyone could accuse me of that. Not with some of the things I've done. But I still pray. Only the Lord knows if he's listening. But it helps remind me what's important to me. A lot of the time, I just pray for family. Hope they're doing fine. I hope they are too. There was a momentary silence between you two, like the subtle shift of coals in a long burning fire, now snuffed by the door rattling open again. You looked behind you, and sure enough, it was Jacob shuffling in. He grabbed a broom and briefly swept some dust. He tracked it back outside before closing the door with another rattle. Forgive me for the delay. I hope I haven't kept you two from your business. Don't worry yourself. We're doing just fine here. He leaned into and nudged you playfully. Good. So, how may I help you, gentlemen? The word catches you off guard a little, the way it trips off his tongue so easily. No bitterness, no mockery. Joseph seems to stall for a moment before a little wary smile returns to his face. He adjusted in his seat to turn to Jacob, who had now taken a seat facing you on the other bench. Well, we're just passing through, but I'm curious. You mentioned something about prayer. Well, of course. You must forgive me. I'm clearly far too used to the usuals of the town. His slow drawl of words is comforting, like being told a long-worn story by a grandparent. This is a meeting hall for friends. Quackers, if you will. We're largely cracker. Quacker community here. Let me see. Quackers. Ah, yeah. There's a lot of you folks over in Pennsylvania, and the likes ain't there. Yes, indeed, that's true. In fact, that's where I hailed from. But I must admit, it's been a long, long time since I visited. So I've gotta say I might see here. I've never even heard of crackers. I can't say I'm much more enlightened myself. I don't know nothing about them. You both turn to Jacob expectantly. Ah, well, what's the simplest way I can explain our beliefs? He fell into deep thought for a few moments, eyes staring into the middle distance before coming back to life. We believe that there is that of a God in everyone, that we all have a inner light that guides us. We don't perform sermons or sing hymns. Instead, we pray in silence together. There are no guidelines as to what you should do, other than try to connect and listen to the light within yourself. We also very strongly believe in pacifism and do what we can to promote peace, denouncing all forms of violence and degradation of our fellows who walk the earth with us. It's important to respect the light of God within everyone. That's certainly how I see it. That sounds nice, but, well, things don't often work that way in my experience. Jacob smiled wisely, likely having heard the same sentiment many times before. Yes, there's certainly some that adhere to it more than others in town here. But it's always been an important tenet of our community. So, everyone in this town are quackers? Well, yes and no. Many of us are, but some of us more so just adhere to the same principles and ideals of nonviolence and so forth. Quackerism isn't enforced, but it bonds this community. Huh. Interesting. What about old Sheriff? What about Sheriff? With the pacifism. Why is that so hard to say? Pacifism and whatnot. Doesn't seem like it'd be easy. Oh, well, yeah, I can see how you might suppose that. Sheriff cares about keeping the peace, but isn't solely responsible for it. We all are. It's what made this town so easy to keep going. Me and Sheriff see eye to eye on many things. So, you and Sheriff have been here a while then? Did you found a place or something? You'd have to believe it by the tortoise's age. He could definitely be as old as his town. Aha! No, you flatter me, for I am not quite that pioneering. But I have indeed been here for a long time. If you indulge me, I could tell you a little of my story. Please do. Jacob nodded, again drifting off into thought for a moment, before coming back with his words. As I said, I'm from Pennsylvania. During the height of the gold rush, with so many heading west, many quackers thought it would be the benefit to follow. I was much younger then, much more eager to get on the trail and spread the ideals of friends. Although, I can't say my love of Babylon has waned much. He gave a charming and hoarse little laugh at his own jib. The trail was very hard, but I learned much from others in the caravans and towns and cities on the way. So much life and light. I arrived in this hill town, maybe more chipper than I had left. It was not to be. His expression softened, drawing into himself, emotion failing to find its way onto his face. I loathe to speak ill of my fellow man, but when I arrived, this was a godless place. The miners had little care for each other, be it out of greed or desperation. They were consumed by their need for gold, even those who had had their fill. The whole town was tense and unpredictable. Arguments, even violence, would erupt whenever something valuable turned up. A new vein, gold in the river. They did whatever they had to get what they wanted. The night I arrived, they told me of the so-called savages that used to reside here. Very little makes my blood boil, I'll tell you boys what. By the way, the miners talked about those Indians, how happily they told me stories about the ways they drove them out. Unspeakable things, things I did not and would not want to repeat to anyone. I tried explaining the friend's way, how even the savages, as they call them, had the light of God in them. How we were equally important in the presence of God's light. That the people we share this earth with were not our enemy. They had no care for my explanations. They had no care for the needs or lives of others than themselves. It made me wonder how Quakers past had convinced people of the evils of slavery, of the importance of peace. Building bonds instead of destroying one another. I lost hope. I thought maybe things had changed so much. Perhaps this was the people's limit. Tolerance of those who could get in their way was no longer an option. Or perhaps I was just a failure, unable to convince a single soul of giving a damn. The old tortoise looked forlorn, brow furrowed, like he was reliving these moments so vividly that these were the same faces he wore. Then along came Sheriff. Oh, Sheriff. I was a little worried when Sheriff was the first assigned to the town, that I'd just have another person to fight with, someone with authority on the side of the miners. Instead, I found a kindred spirit, someone who actually listened to me and agreed with me on many things. Very quickly, we became firm friends. Eventually, Sheriff got sick of the miners, decided enough was enough, and shut down the town. Forced the miners to move elsewhere. The entire time he's been talking about Sheriff, his face was lively and lit up, his hands moving with his words. It was a lot like how your pastor used to give sermons. Surely there was resistance to a whole mining town being packed up like that. Oh, wrong person. Haha. Surely there was resistance to a whole mining town being packed up like that. Of course. But Sheriff did what's right. That's the way Sheriff's soul is set. I felt buried by the weight of the town's hate, their convictions like stone walls I could not scale. I'll be grateful to God until the day I die that Sheriff came here. I was given so much hope when I lost it all. And you've been here ever since? Jacob chuckled. Yes, we have. Only a handful of us stayed after the miners left, and it was hard to know whether this town would still stand. But we felt sure we could find more people who cared, as long as we worked together. More people like us. His words hung in the air, settling around you and Joseph, as Jacob settled his gaze on you both. So, those miners are still around? A lot of mining towns died down because of the gold drying up. But if the miners just left, I guess there's some still here. Well, yes, I suppose. I can't say I've thought much about it recent years. We don't encourage those looking for gold. I'm sure you understand. It's nothing but trouble. His warm gaze turned somewhere steely. You weren't sure how long it might go on for if Joseph didn't pipe up. Course, Jacob. We're just a curious bunch. Thank you for talking with us strangers for so long. His stern eyes disappeared in an instant, and he humbly waved away Joseph's things. No, the pleasure's all mine. It's been good to talk to new ears. If you'll excuse me now, I must get this place tidied up before today's meeting. Quaker's meeting? Yes, indeed. You're both welcome to join us if you like. Thank you, Jacob, but I'm thinking we'll be off anyhow. You all stand, stretching and shaking off the stiffness from wings and tails and legs. Well, good, well. Keep the light close to you. You both nod and leave through the same rattling doors before, catching one last glance at Jacob staring his chores before you close it. Joseph stands with you for a moment in the porch of the meeting hall, looking off into the town. What are you thinking? Well, we know now these folks ain't gonna put up much of a fight. Maybe some of them, but... And there's definitely gold here. Somewhere. Joseph had no real emotions playing across his face, but he was standing much more still than you had seen him before. Like he was trying not to breathe. Come on, we got more people to talk to. He exhaled sharply. The feathers on his beak and next to his nose holes fluttered. Yeah. He walked past the houses and people like before, but didn't feel like waving back. Walking back to the edge of town, on the other side from the sign you now knew read Clemency, you both sit on the edge of a little hillside slope, kicking dust up on yourselves as you settle on the rocky surface. Think that's all the useful places of interest here. Unless we want to go knocking on folks' doors asking for gold. I think we've disturbed this lot enough for a day. Your resting hand becomes restless as it brushes against some dry desert grass, entwining it between your fingers, slowly pulling it from its roots. So, what did we actually figure out? Everyone here is kind and mostly defenseless? I think pacifist is the word. You tug more grass up into your hands. They can maybe fight off some bandits, but no officers are gonna come help. And they ain't gonna do much good against a holy gang. And there is gold here, somewhere. In some forgotten mines no one's seen for decades. Well, it's gotta be around here. This is a mining town for Pete's sake. How far could it be? He shrugged. Jeff said the town was moved. The mines could be anywhere now. Maybe it really was just rumors. Maybe there's not really anything to find here. I think you know as well as I do that these folks were antsy. Friendly as well, but gold gets their hackles up. Someone has to know where the mines are. You knew he was right. You knew how to read people well enough. Joseph stood up, gazing out across the landscape of the town and beyond, searching towards the horizon. Gonna use those special eyes of yours, bird brain? More use than you're chasing your tail, mutt. He looked at you for a moment with a smirk, and you smirked back. You rolled the grass in your hand between your fingers, squishing the reeds of it together, dropping seeds in the sand. I can't see nothing. God damn, sun's my eyes. Ain't helping neither. I don't know if, Bartholomew would help out. He was maybe the most friendly one of the bunch. Sheriff didn't even want to talk about the gold. Guess Sheriff knows how to keep the town safe. You look up at Joseph, his puzzled face squinting in the sun, looking down at you. Looking back out into the desert, the sun sits between two rocky outcroppings in the distance. A light bulb plucked from the sky by unmoving fingers. It'll start getting dark soon. Sheriff knows where the mines are. Bartholomew said he never saw them, and Jacob was never a miner. He had no reason to go to the mines. What? So he never saw them? That don't make sense. I'm not saying that. I'm saying even if he did see them back then, he wouldn't remember what they were now. Sheriff still knows where they are because they're the biggest danger to the town. I'd wager Sheriff even checks up on them every so often to make sure it's undisturbed. Huh. I guess that checks out. You don't have the time for a stakeout, though. You bulge your hand into a fist, the grass yielding and turning to dust. We don't need to know where they are anyway. We got all we need. Knowing where the mines are would just be a penny in the hat. We should think about our next move. You ignored the tiny knot in your stomach as you thought about what to do next. You should just leave, but there's nothing else to do here. We should just think about resting. Getting knocked soon. I think we should stay at the saloon. Sheriff did offer. You sure you want to stay here for a night? Seems like the least we can do before we leave. Unless camping outside has some mighty appeal to you. Joseph flashed a wire smile. Alright. Let's have a look first. No point bringing the horses down if I can't afford the rooms. Standing up, you feel the dust fly between your fingers with the winds blowing east, and follow Joseph a few paces behind. You walk towards the saloon, again, looking forward to having somewhere to rest. You don't remember the last time you actually stayed in a room somewhere. It was always a tent, or just in your bedroom, lying beneath the stars. You see Sheriff and Bartholomew standing on the porch of the saloon, talking intently, but can't pick up any clear words on the wind. Sheriff notices you both as you approach, patting Bartholomew on the back as he takes his leave back inside. Sheriff leaves the shade of the saloon's overhang, walking with purpose towards you both. The blue of the sky was starting to fade into the oranges, pinks on the edges of the spars, and tiny clouds overhead. You both slow to a stop as Sheriff approaches you quickly. The face approaching you was different from before, and you see Joseph's face fall a little. Sheriff came to a stop in front of you both, twisting the cane in the dirt a little. The music stopped. It's about to get real serious, guys. The old and frail figure standing in front of you was shaking a tad. You can hear slow and deliberate breaths from the chest. The usual confident and bluster off of Joseph dissipated under his new glare of Sheriff's. The new and sharp eyes, unlike those you seen when you arrived. There was a tiredness in them, a fierce tiredness, beneath which was a wild look you'd only see in the eyes of the newly grieving. Gripping the cane, scaled knuckles turned white, Sheriff spoke in a low and calm voice. Yeah, I should have known. Thought maybe I was wrong this time. Y'all seem so, I don't know, like you should be here. Even so, I knew there was something off with what you were asking. Is everything alright, Sheriff? We're just going to see if we can stay at the saloon. Sheriff slammed the cane into the dirt with such force you feared it might crack the earth beneath you. You know damn well things are not alright. I had a little chat with my friends around town, talking about the newcomers, what they had been asking about. Just passing their town, give me a break. I should have known it was too good to be true. I know when I see the gold fever in them eyes. We're not here to cause trouble, Sheriff. We'll be on our way tomorrow morning. Really now? Well. Sheriff reached a free hand behind and pulled an old revolver to point at you. Holy shit. Holy shit. Whoa, Sheriff. Whoa, calm down. We'll leave in the morning, man. I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna say it once. Oh man, is it high noon? Sheriff, counterpoint. I have a gun. Sheriff, what if, just saying, I also have a gun? I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna say it once. I made a promise to protect this town and the people who lived here, that I would do what was right by them. So both of you are gonna turn tail and leave right now, and you never come back. And if I ever see either of you heading this way again, I will shoot you dead before nary fur or feather crosses that town line. You stood still next to Joseph, a small fear of walking taking hold as you feel like the wind might knock you off your feet. Understood, Sheriff. Just Joseph started walking away, not stopping for you, even as you stood there a moment longer just to say one word. Sorry. You knew that didn't make up for it, but it was all you could muster from your tight throat. You turned quickly and walked away after Joseph with your head down, staring at your feet as they rhythmically sped one after another through the dust tracks of a town you couldn't come back to. The climb back out of the valley was quiet. The wind was the only noise to reach your ears, no words coming to pass between you and Joseph. The only occasional meeting of the eyes when he looked to make sure you hadn't fallen behind. Those eyes, the face he had grown accustomed so quickly to having at least a hint of smile resting, was devoid of much emotion at all. He wasn't thinking about it, you felt, but to not think about it meant to not think at all. And so he didn't, his limbs carrying him up the path, but no one was home. You understood, of course, as much as you'd like to not think about it either. You couldn't ignore the small dread in your chest. Like it was in the cavities of your insides, seeping around between your organs. A creeping tar. Not a suffocating tar, just making you feel heavy, dense. If you stopped walking now, you didn't know if you'd start again. The sun was starting to dip into the horizon when you reached your original meeting spot at the top of the cliff. Both your horses were lying in the long shadows of some rocky mounds, your own shadows stretching across the sand as you go to tend to them. You both hauled your bedrolls off and started to unpack them, giving the horses some water and sorting through your belongings. Still, without a word, a camp for the night quickly formed between you as you worked. Joseph had brought a thin metal stand with him to hang the cooking pot over, and gently tossed you his book of matches as he erected it. You struck the match in a familiar fashion, placing it in the middle of a dried assortment, blowing gently to encourage the shy flame. Lifting your head back up from the budding fire, Joseph was having a little issue getting his stand to, well, stand. His face was still the same neutral, empty face from before, and you noticed a little catch on a joint that hadn't flipped properly. You brought your hand up to flick it out of the way. Either the lurch of the stand falling into place or the momentary touch of your hands against his seemed to jolt Joseph out of his listless state. Thank you. A smile, just a small one, a wary and wary one, returned to his face. You were glad to see it again. It was enough to make your chest a little lighter, the tar receding just a touch. With the fire lit, a modest plume of smoke started billowing into the sky and scattering in the fading sunlight. Joseph got up momentarily to rummage in one of his saddlebags, coming back with a tin and some bundled cloth. I've got some, beans, some salted pork, too. Not sure what you got with you. Ah, right. Yeah, hold on. He had plenty of water still, and if he was propping up the bulk of meal, you had some molasses to add, too. He brought them both over and let Joseph sitting on his bedroll. He laid out nectarines. Wasn't really a two-person job. With the beans gently cooking away in the pot, he sat there, lazily stirring it with a spoon. You grabbed your bedroll and laid it out on the opposite side of the fire, squatting and dropping onto it with a thud, tucking your legs towards you. Resting your head on your knees, holding them in your arms. We're so cute. We're so cute. Look at us, just a couple of cowboys having beans and molasses on the fire. Just a couple of cowboys just by the fire together, cooking up some beans, kissing. Cooking beans and holding hands. Eating beans and looking longingly into each other's eyes. Um, uh, I mean, uh, uh, beans. Ahem, ahem. Uh, the two of you sat like this a short while, watching the pot steaming away, the orange flame slicking and underside of the well-used metal. You found yourself thinking about what happened in Clemency without even realizing. The pain you felt in your stomach when Sheriff knew why you were there. The sharp chill that shot from your neck to your tail when the gun was pulled on you. You weren't scared of being shot. That wasn't it. That wasn't what set your palm into a cold sweat. It was something else. Something about having to leave the town. Sorry for letting you do so much of the talking today. I'm more of a quiet type. Sure you figured that out already. He flashed you a weak but genuine smile. Not like I did much good. It wasn't your fault, Joseph. Sheriff was paranoid and we were bound to be rumbled eventually. Besides, it doesn't really seem like there is any gold here, unless we feel like setting up a new mining operation. Yep, I'm sure Black Vulture will love to hear that. Wasn't my fault, I'll say. He sighed, a sharp He sighed, a sharp exasperated exhale through his nose holes. One knee of his crossed legs fidgeting and bouncing as he stirred the pot. You were a little taken back that he seemed to be mocking what you said. Maybe it just wasn't what he wanted to hear right now. Still, you understood his frustrations. What would your bosses think if you told them what this place was like? Would they even believe us? Sorry. You're snapped from your thoughts by his apology, a slightly guilty look on his face, knowing he must have seen that he hurt your feelings a little. You're right. It's not my fault. Exactly, but hell, this is a mess, Marlin. His fidgeting was spreading, playing across the feather fingers of his wings, his face, his eyes, his knees again. Like a ragtime tune was playing all across the inside of his body. What's he like? Black Vulture. Yeah. His breathing was ragged too. You got onto your knees and reached your hand on his. You got onto your knees and reached your hand onto his that was stirring the spoon even now. A gentle but firm grasp, stopping its motions. Your eyes met over the cooking pot. He looked like he was seeing you again for the first time in a long time. The shaking in his hand came to a rest, and it relaxed its vice grip on the long spoon as he held each other's gaze. Let go. I'm here. It's alright. He nodded a few times, taking his hand away and resting on his hunches, stretching his legs out. A few moments passed as Joseph regained his calm, laid-back demeanor. One leg still bounced a little, a quick rhythm, tapping a dance hall tune. Horsey. The sun was almost gone now, the last shred of its light in the desert turning everything in the distance a single red dust. You could see the stars now as you looked to the sky, the light continuing to fade. More and more points of light dotting their way to the east. You turned your eyes away from the sky when you heard the sound of a penknife flickering open. Oh, don't mind me none. Just doing a little preening. He started taking the knife gently to his wing, very gently. He seemed to be scraping away older feathers, while also opening new pin feathers scattering across the wing, in motions almost like shaving. Forgive me if I'm talking out of line, but why don't you use your beak for that? Well, Mama always told me you don't use your beak for things around anyone other than family or lovers. It ain't polite. He seemed a little sheepish admitting it, like it was an uncommon quirk of his family. You'd asked about Black Vulture, yeah? Don't you know the stories already? Yeah, but those are just stories. I know what it's like riding with someone with a few tall tales trailing behind them. Joseph snorted a little, still making his way across the wing with his small knife. Yep, that sounds about right. Pretty sure the more flattering ones I've heard were left behind by the vulture himself. You settled on the side of your legs a little, getting more comfortable as he kept stirring the ever-cooking pot. Where to begin with the man himself? Jeez. He's a real piece of work, that one. I can tell you that much for sure. He's a city slicker that considers himself as a cowboy, even though he hates getting his boots dirty. Acts all gentlemanlike and such, a real flannel mouth. He'd charm the pants off of you if you had something he wanted. Then when he's got what he wants, he'd jab the knife towards you pointedly. He'd stick you in the back and twist it hard to hear you cry. He turned the knife back to preening. He's a terrible shot, too. There are some stories that he could shoot the cap off a bottle without spilling it from 50 paces. But he ain't the sharpshooter. Never. He's almost as bad a shot as me. Got someone else for that. See, that's how you run in his posse. You make yourself in, be sensible. He tapped his knife on the ground through the words to make this his point. His gang is on the smaller side, but they're plenty loyal. They need to be. There can't be anyone else. You're loyal then? I'm the eyes. I'm useful. I get on good with a lot of them, and Black Vulture keeps me around. It's a win-win. You understood what he was saying, what he meant, what he really wanted to say. You understood how it felt to be under that kind of looming shadow. No one for miles around, but don't say anything just in case. You seen what happens to others. You both had, for sure. Joseph was as far from a greenhorn as could be. He swapped hands and started the knife on his other wing now. So, what about Curly Wolf? You said there were plenty of tall tales about him. Split fair with me. You didn't look at him when he asked you. He kept looking at the pot, peeking over to check the beans. This looks about done to me. Joseph stared at you for a moment when you did meet his eyes, and then closed up his knife, kneeling over to look with an approving whistle. Yeah, looks it to me. You laughed a little as his stomach gave a hearty growl, fetching the bowls and holding them while Joseph served you a big slopping portion. A nice big sloppy portion of beans. My favorite. Oh boy. Night had come now, and you both gathered a little closer around the fire and moved the pot stand to the side. You could see him easier now, with it out the way. With the pot lifted, the fire rose, dancing in the wind, sometimes hazing your view. The blur flitting in and out as he glanced eyes while he ate. Believe it or not, but I ain't the cookie back at camp. Someone else got that privilege. He was clearly joking, but the beans were some of the better you'd had. I never would have guessed. I don't cook that often, but I make some mean donuts from time to time. Oh, you do now? I'll have to try them then. I hope so. It was so selfish to ignore his question. Say nothing about Curly Wolf. So rude of you. You weren't raised like this. You couldn't though. Never. Or more like, you didn't know what to say. How many years had it been now? Sorry, I should have said something when you asked about my boss. I get it. No, I mean, of course you do. But it's also that when I said I was the quiet type, it's more than that. If I'm shooting straight with you, I don't remember the last time I heard my own voice before today. At the camp, I might say yeah or no, but I don't really talk. And when I'm away on the lookout, there's just no one to talk to. I don't want to talk to myself and just be reminded I'm alone. I've never talked about him. I wouldn't. Joseph looked straight at you. Even into you, it almost felt like. You could see the fire between you and his eyes, flames fluttering across the irises. The intensity of his look gave way to something like relief. Nah, don't worry about being a quiet one. I don't think it's part of your charm. There are lots of wannabe tough guys who want to act like you with no sweat. That strong, silent type. Besides, guys back home are always telling me to shut up. Not that I give them the satisfaction. I can tell you that being quiet doesn't change things. Same horse shit regardless of whether you make a fuss. You sighed. A long sigh. What words could you even use for a man like him? Curly Wolf is a bad egg. I think sometimes he was born like that. I know he can't have been, but I don't know what God's forsaken things happened to him to turn him into what he is. He's probably the meanest, roughest bastard you'll ever have the misfortune of meeting. Anyone you can think of that you wouldn't want to run into, he's worse than that. I don't know about Black Vulture, but the stories Curly Wolf leaves behind, I don't think they even match up to how dangerous he is. I've seen him gun down traitors riding away on horseback 200 paces away. It's easy to get his dander up, and he's the last person you ever want to do that to. He'd make sure of that. Not the brightest you'd ever meet, but his instincts are keen. He's never made an empathy threat, and he'll happily get his hands dirty to make it good on them. Shit. Black Vulture said before he'd be willing to pick a fight with Curly Wolf, but they'd never met. Now I'm wondering if he had any idea what that would get him into. He ain't stupid, but he's definitely too cocky for his own good. Oh, eat your bowl before it gets cold. Nothing worse than cold food. Oh, he's looking after us. You did as he said, mulling over what you talked about while he ate. Joseph had had a head start on you, but even so his eating was voracious, and he finished before you were even halfway through yours. He sat back from his hunched over bowl, wiping his beak from his arm. He looked around some, into the fire, out into the darkness of the desert, at you. Ooh. You could tell he didn't want to stare, but his eyes took you in anyway, with long glances. Oh? Oh? He coughed, clearing his throat to stall for the words he was thinking of. Say, Balin, I wanted to ask. He grabbed his knife again, taking it to his wing once more, looking away as he asked a common question. Yeah, I hope you don't think me cruel for asking, but, well, what happened? Did he do that to you? Oh, we get the lore of what happened to the arm. Let's go. You were pretty used to the questions about it, but you appreciate the genuine warmth behind his words, at least. This whole thing. Yeah, it wasn't pretty. It was a practical joke of sorts. You'd call it that. Ugh, I can't say that. It was a practical joke of sorts, if you call it that, by some of the guys during a camp. Took my bandana and shoved it in the mouth of one of those horses. Egged me on, to get it back. Reached my hand in and, of course, the hoss gets all angsty and bite down. Starts thrashing trying to get away. I don't remember much after that. Blacked out from the pain. Next thing I know, I'm being hauled to some doctor. Told me that they had to amputate or it purified. Joseph has stopped preening at this point, looking at you with some real watery eyes and a soft expression on his brow of both anger and horror. Got their bandana back, so, win some, lose some. I'm sorry. Nothing to be sorry for. Long time ago, you just live with it. Bowl and finished, you set aside your bowl, taking another appraisal of your surroundings, looking up to the sky and its carpet of stars. It was quickly starting to get cold, so you got up and went to your horses, fishing some blankets out from them. Looking inside the bag, you couldn't find your usual extra blanket for yourself. Shit. Must have forgotten to take it before you left. You spied your binoculars in there. You took them and walked to the edge of the cliff again. You're about to put them onto your eyes when you realize you didn't need them to see what was happening in Clemency. The whole town was dark, except for the bright lights prominently shining from the saloon. You saw the shallow silhouettes of people dancing play out across the streets in front, and you listened very closely. Music. Seems like they're having a rip-roaring time. Yeah, I wonder if they would do it tonight, like Bartholomew mentioned. Why wouldn't they? What have they got to be worried about? His voice was a little cold, blunt. Ice cubes in a drink bumping your teeth as he said, You know, out of all the towns I've been kicked out of and run out of, this is the only one I'd want to come back to. This place ain't for us. We're trouble, Marlin. We're no good for these folks. Tomorrow, we'll be gone. We'll tell our bosses we didn't find anything, and if we're lucky, they'll just go on their way. Maybe in another life, we could have gone back there. It would have been nice. But this is our life, our only one. It is what it is. We move on. That's how we live. You can feel the wind blowing behind you, ruffling your trousers, whistling past your ears as it seemed to push you towards the edge of the cliff. Yeah, I guess it is. The wind kept howling, picking up and dying down, whistling off of the valley and kicking up the clouds of dust around the buildings down below. Curly Wolf is gonna ransack this place, even if they don't have anything. And what do you want me to do about it, huh, Marlin? It's not my problem. You feel now, desert night on you, your fingers, the tips of your ears starting to feel the tenderness of the cold in the wind. You're shivering. You shouldn't have talked back to him. You knew how that always went. It never ended well. You just made him feel worse, like it was his fault. Why should he have to listen to your stupid concerns? It was your shit to figure out. He owes you nothing. You just met. You don't know each other. If it weren't for convenience, you would have shot each other hours ago. You heard the sound of shuffling behind you as he got up. He started walking towards you. Here it came, as you knew it would. You tense up as he approaches, closing the distance, expecting the due anger. Closing your eyes when you feel him at your back, ready for the blow that's coming. You flinch when you feel a weight around your shoulders, a squeeze of them too that you expect to hurt, but it's so tender it couldn't possibly. Opening your eyes, you see a thick blanket draped around you down to your knees. You looked cold. Don't wanna get consumptions just standing there. You know how cold the desert gets. You dropped the binoculars gingerly by its strap to the floor, now clasping the edge of the blanket with your hand tighter around you. You could feel how cold your fingers were just below your chin, almost numb. How long had you been standing there for? I'm dreadfully sorry. You got nothing to be sorry for. You and he sat down by the fire, Joseph giving it 1,000-yard stare. Thank you. Nothing to it. Get warm. You pull the blanket tighter again, the desert chills still sweeping underneath. Are you not cold? I've been round the fire all night, haven't I? I'm fine. He's lying. You can see his feathers twitch and shiver, but he's trying hard to hide it. You wonder the truth of what he said, too. That we just had to move on. Standing up with the blanket, you walk around the fire, standing over him a moment as he looks up towards you with wide eyes. Uwu? You sweep the blanket around him and sit down, shoulder to shoulder. You were right. He's definitely cold, but a lot warmer than you'd imagine. Oh my goodness. Oh my god, look! I told you I'm fine. Don't give me that blow, tough guy. I know you're not. It looks like he's going to say something, but just shuts his beak. He suddenly seems a lot warmer. I'm sorry. I didn't mean what I said. I know. That wasn't the fella I've been around all day. I'm just scared. He nods softly, as to be almost unnoticeable. Yeah, more scared than I've ever been. Together you huddled, bringing the blanket tighter and tighter, and moving closer to each other. He smells like the desert, dusty and sweaty. Why is this so warm? Why do you feel like this? Not warm like you're around a fire, but like there's a fire inside you. Warm coals shifting around inside, and embers spitting in your throat. Ooh woo. Have you ever felt like this before? Joseph, Oh my god. He looks at you. Your faces so close together. Oh my god. Oh my god. He leans your head into his shoulder, staring into the wild dance of the fire. I haven't met someone like me before. Or someone like you. You're extremely kind, even to a stranger like me. I wish I could know you more than these few hours. I know I have to ride back in the morning, but all of the hopes I've hoped, the strongest is that I could just stay here. That the sun would never rise. I don't want to go back. You stay clinging to him. After a few moments, he pulls you tighter. I'd have to say, I feel the same way. I can see in you someone who's faced so many hardships. Someone who deserves better. Who's worked harder than any of the lump suckers back where you came from. We're a couple queer fish in a barrel. I say, Lord knows how we found each other. The sun will come up again and we'll have to go our separate ways. We don't have another choice. I just wish it wasn't so. I wish. You lift your head to look at him, but he just gives you a look and turns back to the fire. What are you thinking? He sighs, wearily, like he's been asked to carry the world on his back. It's a flight of fancy, that's all. It's not realistic. You look at him curiously, catching his eyes. He looks at you almost for approval before he thinks about what he wants to say. I wish we could run away. That's it. The two of us, far away from everyone and everything. Ride east till we know no one's chasing us. That sounds nice. You both cuddle for a little while longer, sitting close and resting your heads together. The thoughts of running away tick over in your mind. Is that what you want? As if he could read your mind, Joseph asked. What do you want to do? You thought more. No one had ever really asked you that. And even so, you knew what you wanted to say. I'm tired of running, Joseph. I want to fight. I want to kill Curly Wolf. Really? It's the only way I can think of to be free of him. You know as well as I do, you don't get to just up and leave. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to be free of Black Vulture too. But do you think that's something you could do? Kill him? I can't do it alone. Our gangs, Joseph, they're going to destroy this town. And after, if we ran away, we'd never be safe. We'd be looking over our shoulders the rest of our lives. I don't want to run away from things anymore. I want to run towards a better life. With you. Joseph's eyes were sympathetic, but his expression was of discomfort. I think you're right. And I do want to help you. But I'm useless in a fight. I can't shoot straight. I don't want to die, Barlin. I wouldn't let that happen. I'll keep you safe. We can keep each other safe. We haven't been living our lives, Joseph, just surviving. Something better than that is worth dying for, I think. The fight feels inevitable. We should face it. You really that desperate to get out? You nod, head held against his shoulder. He sighs the same sigh again, long and heavy, almost theoretical if it weren't for the stakes laid out before you both. I think you're right. Chance like this won't come again. I might even be tempted to call it fate. We should talk to Sheriff Ken, I think. Somehow, if we can. He yawns. I don't know what we're gonna do. But we ain't gonna figure it out when we're bone dried. Bone tired. We should get some sleep. Come morning, we'll talk more. Figure something out and then hope on a kiss and a prayer that we make it out alive. A kiss and a prayer? Is there gonna be a kiss? He chuckles. Ain't that the story of our lives? This'll be the last time we have to fight like that. I swear it. We both fall asleep against each other, dreaming of that promise. Praying for a better tomorrow and willing to fight for it. That adorable. I think we can end it there. They didn't kiss. But, you know, it's almost like they do have the same feelings for each other. They both have the same ideas. They're basically kissing. That's basically what it is. My voice, man, being a cowboy is hard. Thank you all for coming by. I hope you enjoyed the stream. And until next time, I hope you guys have a good day. I hope you guys have a good night. And I hope you guys have a good life. Bye.